religious groups. Not everyone's pleased with the White House's, quote, accommodation. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops says the only solution is to rescind the entire mandate. Steve Santani joins us with more of the debate. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Shannon. Under continued pressure from the Catholic bishops, the White House chief of staff defended the president's compromise today. He appeared on Fox News Sunday with Chris Wallace.
We didn't expect to get the universal support of the bishops or all Catholics. I think that what we have here is a policy that reflects bringing together of two very important principles in a way that's true to the American tradition, and that's what the president is trying to do.
Now, the president's compromise allows insurance companies to pay for and arrange for birth control for women, not the religious institutions themselves. But the Catholic bishops still don't like it. They said in a statement late Friday the policy continues to involve needless government intrusion in the internal governance of religious institutions and to threaten government coercion of religious people and groups to violate their most deeply held convictions. And Republicans are saying the president's compromise really doesn't change anything.
The fact that the White House thinks this is about contraception is the whole problem. It is about freedom of religion. It's right there in the First Amendment. You can't miss it.
This is outrageous. I mean, the bottom line is that you have the federal government now saying, we're going to give you a right, and then saying, by the way, we're going to tell you how to exercise that right.
The president and the White House show no signs of backing down, even as members of Congress consider legislation that would outlaw this kind of birth control coverage mandate. Shannon?
All right, Steve, thanks for keeping us updated.
You bet.
Now, joining us to talk more about the debate is Hannah Smith, senior counsel to the BecketFund, and also Laura McCleary, director of government relations for the Center for Reproductive Rights. We thank you both for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Hannah, why isn't this compromise good enough for you?
The president's announcement on Friday has absolutely no legal effect whatsoever. And in fact, what the president did on Friday, if you look very closely at the legal papers that came out on Friday, all he did was finalize the very same rule that they put in place in August of 2011. Not one word was changed, not one comma was changed. It's exactly the same rule. All we got on Friday were two additional promises. One from the administration saying that they would delay enforcement of the rule for a year so that these religious groups could fall in line. And the other promise we got from the president was that he would come up with some additional mandate that would shift these costs to insurance companies. That's magical accounting according to our view of things. So really all we got was two promises. If anyone's been paying attention at all, they realize that the president has not fulfilled his previous promises to religious groups, and he's likely not to do so the same.
All right, Laura, let me bring you in here. How do you respond to those who have concerns about this cost issue, what legal authority the president has to tell the insurance companies to include this contraception, and whether or not they'll pass those added costs along elsewhere?
Well, I want to say first that in America we respect both the individual's liberty to make these kinds of decisions for themselves and the president's new policy, which strikes a balance between institutional and individual liberty. On the cost issue, this issue is a non-starter because these programs, contraceptive coverage in particular, is a huge benefit to insurance coverage. There's already a business group for insurance providers that recommends that all insurers provide these things without copay because they estimate it saves about 15% in avoiding unwanted, unintended pregnancies.
All right, Hannah, your response to that, is it actually saving money down the line?
Well, 2 points. First of all, this so-called insurance mandate does nothing whatsoever to take away the burden from religious groups. Everyone knows the insurance companies are not going to pay for these services for free. It's going to come from somewhere, and premiums are going to rise, and religious groups are still going to be paying for these services.
Shannon, I can't believe
this is not changing the burden at all.
I'm sorry, Hannah, but I can't believe that the implication here is that insurers would just blatantly violate the law and that every insurer would not do what the president has asked them to do and has clearly stated that he intends for them to do as a matter of this policy. While Hannah is right that they've just republished the existing policy, they've announced a promise to change the policy going on forward and to revisit this issue in a rulemaking next year. And I think that's the point at which we'll see all of these issues get hashed out in the details. That's the point at which, if the BecketFund has a problem with the rule, it can raise those issues.
And Hannah, let me ask you,
who believes that this is going to happen before the election? election. This is not going to happen before the election. There's no way the president is going to be able to figure out what this insurance mandate is, get a rulemaking process established and completed by the end of the election. So
I don't think anyone's promised that it has to happen before the election.
Well, Laura, if the president
well, he's kicking the can down the road.
Let me ask a question, Laura. If the president didn't win re-election, is it your position you worry that the entire issue would be moot because maybe a GOP president would handle this rulemaking differently?
I'm not going to speculate about hypotheticals on the post-election basis. What the president has said, and he will be as good as his word, is that he will revisit this issue and craft an accommodation for institutions that allow institutions that have an objection to wash their hands of this issue. The insurer will provide the coverage, the insurer will pay for the coverage, and that is a very reasonable and fair and workable balance between individual religious liberty, which is respected by allowing individuals to make this decision for themselves and their families, and institutional religious liberty.
All right, Hannah, very quick final word to you. Is there a compromise, Hannah, that would satisfy you, would satisfy the Beckett Fund?
Absolutely. It's what religious groups have been asking for since last August, and that is either broaden the exemption so that all religious individuals, groups, organizations, charitable organizations, hospitals, colleges, universities, all of them get an exemption from this overbearing mandate. Either expand the exemption or get rid of the mandate altogether. Those are the two choices.
But
the president has done neither of those.
Have been very clear that that's not good enough. What they want is a Taco Bell exemption that allows anyone with any objection to undermine any mandate. And that's been very clear by what we've seen as the opposition has moved the goalpost over the course of the last week.
We're going to have to leave it there,
but
Hannah.
The First Amendment says differently, and the First Amendment says that religious groups get to protect their rights.
Hannah and Laura, we thank you both for coming in to represent both sides of this issue. We know it is far from over. Maybe we'll have you back for round two. Thank you both.
Thank you so much.